Wait. No, this is James. I made an error today. I feel very bad. I told James I was going to go out and go scoot with him at 9 o'clock when Thomas took a nap, but I forgot about this show. And today it's an important show because it's timely. Because I see a lot of people getting ripped off on the internet. Now, when I say ripped off, I don't mean scammed or anything. I just mean making really bad purchases. And I want to make sure that doesn't happen to all of you. So today... So today...
This is Darth Vader.
Darth Vader?
Yeah.
Yeah, Darth Vader would sell at a big markup. Today we're going to be talking about backing poker players and buying at a markup. This is a very timely topic.
It's markup.
You know what markup is?
Yeah.
What?
Percent.
You don't know what markup is. I'm going to teach everyone today. Over the last week, I've been sent at least 10 emails of people trying to sell me backing packages for their World Series of Poker. The vast majority of these players are live players who have something like $50,000 in cashes or less, and the vast majority of them are trying to sell at markup, some of it at 2.0 markup, which is insane. 50-50 split, that's got to be fair, right? The answer is no, that's not fair. That is absolutely horrible for the backer. Unfortunately, I've done a little bit of math, and we know that it is detrimentally terrible. Oh, hello. You want to come say hi? We're talking about backing deals.
Okay.
Do you have something to contribute?
I want to.
Pick them up, Amy. I can't pick them up.
I want one too.
Do you have something to contribute?
I want one too.
Oh, let's go back to the other screen. Let's show off the family for a minute, and then we'll get back to work. Say hello. Thomas is going to go take a nap. He's tired. You're going too?
No, I'm just going to be in that chair.
No, you don't need another chair.
Yes, I need one.
Can you say hello? Can you say hello? Can you say thank you for watching? Can you say please come back next time? Can you say okay, bye-bye?
Okay, I got a chair. I got one.
Oh, goodness. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Go take a nap, Thomas.
I'm going to keep possibly on the show.
All right.
Whoa,
All right.
Well, Daddy, you can't see me, Daddy.
Hello, nice family, indeed. No, you need to sit on my lap. You're too short. Stand up. Stand up. You're too short. You're too short to sit in your little chair. You have to sit on my lap.
I want to sit to there.
So backing poker players. Let's just get right to it. First things first, what is backing? Okay? This is where you buy some of the action a poker player has in a poker event. So, let's say I'm going to go play a $10,000 buy-in tournament and you want to buy 10% of it. Well, you would need to give me roughly... I'm going to make you leave if you don't keep the calls. You're going to give me roughly 10% of the money for 10% of my action. Then for whatever I cash for in that tournament, you get 10% of that. If I cash for 0, you get nothing. If I cash for $1 million, you get 100K, right? Now, this presentation here today makes a big presumption. It presumes that the backer, the person buying the action, only cares about making money. This does not presume that you want to have fun and excitement and give away money to charity or anything like that. A lot of people, especially if they're buying on sites like Stake Kings or YouStake, they're buying $5 worth of action, and they're doing it to get a sweat in their favorite poker player because they want to say that they had a piece of somebody's action. Fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but realize you're going to lose money long term. And understand, this is a gambling game, kind of like craps or roulette, or poker even, where you either have an edge or a disadvantage. And if you make bets over and over again with a disadvantage, you're going to lose. And if you make bets over and over again with an edge, you're going to win. It really is as simple as that. Sorry for Thomas screaming his head off. We have lovely boys, yeah, well... oh, you're tired now? James woke me up at 2 a.m. this morning. People react so heavily when you tell the truth. You have to understand that a lot of backers make bad backing decisions, and they don't like the fact that they make bad backing decisions. They don't enjoy hearing that they have messed up consistently for a long time, so they try to defend their poor decisions. A lot of backees actively, predatorily, sell at high markups. Why? Because they've found a few fish who will pay them, right? Think about it. Jonathan Little has a pretty good social media following. If I wanted to sell at 2.0 for tournaments, I could. But I would never do that because I care about all of you and I want to make sure that you all get good deals. I'm not trying to fleece you and take your money just because I'm popular, right? That would be horribly unethical in my opinion. So anyway, let's talk about 2 common backing deals. 1, makeup. This is a long-term deal that's not going to be discussed today. If you want a makeup deal, check out Pokar.com. Our advisor there. At Pokar, I provide long-term backing deals for non-Americans, for primarily online poker. Starting at tiny stakes, you do well, you'll win money, you'll move up, you'll get to the highest stakes games. Many of the absolute best players in the world are Pokar backees, or were at one point, and they've completely risen through the ranks, starting with relatively little money. So we're not going to discuss a makeup deal today because that's not the deal that most people are offering. That's not the deal that most people have. So we're not going to be discussing that. Today we're going to be discussing markup deals, which are...
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
Are you ready to go? The show's not over. I just got started. Hey, go out there with Mommy and get Mommy going. Because look, I need to do my show. The sooner I get done, the sooner we can go out and scoot. Okay, go play. Love you. I told James I was going to ride scooter with him at 9 a.m. and here I am. That was a mistake. I forgot that you all existed for a brief minute. All right. So we're going to be discussing short-term deals. These are markup deals. These are the common deals that you buy if you go to U-Stake or Stake Kings, or if someone posts action, like say I'm going to sell action to my $25,000 tournament. It's one-time deal, right? So we're going to be discussing these markup deals. This is what most people buy. So what is markup? Well, you're essentially buying equity in an individual tournament at some premium or perhaps a discount. You don't see that all that often, but every once in a while people will sell at a discount. These are one-time deals. That means that if I play the tournament and you have a percentage of me and I lose, you're done. You do not get any piece of future action. You don't get any payback if I win the next tournament. This is a one-time deal, okay? Also, these deals do not account for or include expenses. The backer is not responsible for the backee's expenses. Someone posted something very good, actually really, really strong player, who's on the cover of a Card Player this month. He said something effective, yeah, if you want to include expenses, don't worry, go ahead and prepay my buy-ins. I'm going to have to fly first class and live in a mansion in order to play my best, but trust me, I'll play my best. You can back me all day. Exactly. These deals do not include any money for expenses. The backee is wholly responsible for their expenses, and that is not built into markup or anything like that. So, if you buy 10% of someone's tournament, you get 10% of whatever they cash for. It really is pretty simple. So let me give you a few examples. So if a tournament has a $1,000 buy-in, and I'm selling at 1.1, that means that 10% of that costs $110. Okay? If I'm selling at 1.3, it means it costs $130. That's $1,000 times 1.3 equals 130. 1.5 means 150, and 2.0 means 200. Now, 2.0 is egregious. You should literally never pay 2.0 for anyone who is not like the absolute best player in the whole world, okay? But this is actually the backing deal that a lot of people got back in the day. A lot of old school gamblers would propose, all right, let's do it 50-50 for the World Series main event. You give me $10,000, I'll play, we'll split the profits 50-50 on that one tournament. And a lot of recreational fish said, oh, that's a good idea. You have lots of experience, you're spending your time, you're spending your money to get out there, and sure, that's good. The problem with that is that the backee has to have 100% return on investment for the backer to break even. Backee has to have 100% ROI, which is just not going to happen in the vast majority of tournaments. Okay, so we'll get into that in a little bit. I know I'm skipping ahead. Okay, so if the backee, in this example, cashes for $10,000, you as the backer, who has 10%, gets $1,000. 10% of 1,000, right? If the backee cashes for $1,500, you get $150, which, works out actually okay if you bought them at 1.1, but not so well if you bought them at 2.0. Notice you do not get your initial buy-in back or anything like that first. There are some deals that structure it where you get your buy-in back first. They start to get a little bit convoluted. I'm not 100% sure on the math of those because I've never delved into that, and most people aren't even offering that. If the backee cashes for $0, you get $0. Okay? Okay. Let's move forward. So what is a fair markup? This is the question that causes a lot of problems, a lot of drama in the poker world. So essentially, as the backer, the person buying the action, which is usually the side of the coin I am on, I'm asking myself, how much edge does the backer want to achieve long term? Some backers want a lot of edge. Some don't mind having very little edge. Also, from the backee point of view, how badly does the backee need to sell in order to play? For example, if I have $1 million to my name and there's a $1,000 tournament, I'm very adequately bankrolled for it, right? So I don't really need to sell action for this. So if you don't need to sell the action, but somebody does want to buy and you don't mind letting them buy, you get to sell at a higher markup. But let's say there's a $300,000 super high roller bowl that Jonathan Little would like to play, but I'm probably going to have a difficult time selling $300,000 in action. Well, now I'm going to have to sell at a very low markup, if at any markup, maybe even a discount. You want to know an easy way to get into a tournament? Sell at a discount. Maybe I sell 100% of my action for, let's say it's a $300,000 total buy, and maybe I sell it for $270,000. So I have to put in $30,000 to play, and I get 0% of the cashes. I bet I could get in no problem. Could probably find any high stakes backer would back me, knowing that I'm probably going to roughly break even in the tournament because it's a tough tournament, and they're going to make their 10% return on investment roughly. They're putting in $270, they're going to get back $300 on average. They're going to profit. And you know, in someone's position like Jonathan Little, maybe that actually does make sense. If I'm not bankrolled for $300,000 buy-in tournaments, which I'm not, maybe it does make sense to pay some amount of money. Maybe not $30,000, maybe $10,000 to play. You get on the TV, you win the tournament, you don't get any of the money, but you get all the fame and the glory. That said, no one ever sells at a discount, or if they do, it's like 0.99. Selling at a discount is not financially responsible because you're basically saying that you think you're not good. All right, to be fair, a lot of people aren't good. So what are reasonable return on investments? And this depends on the player's skill level. So how do you determine someone's skill level? A lot of people who are backies on Twitter who sell at high markups were trying to ask this question. How do you actually determine someone's skill level? The easiest way is to look at their past track record. These people who sent me emails recently asking me to back them, a quick search on Hendon Mob showed they had like $20,000 in cashes over the last 5 years. These people are fish. Hate to break it to you. No matter how much you're studying, no matter how much you're working on your poker game over the last 6 months, if you have literally no cashes live or online, you are not worthy of backing at even money. You're just not. There are plenty of other good players out there who have good track records who I personally know are very good that I can buy at even money or at a tiny markup. So why would I back some random dude I've never heard of? It doesn't make logical sense, right? So let's say they actually don't have much of a track record, or you think that they're better than their results indicate. This happens sometimes, especially among live high-stakes tournament players. You can just run bad for a long time because you get to play, 200 tournaments a year? I mean, you see when we're playing on Twitch, we have 100 tournament downswings all the time. That's just normal. And so how do you figure out those players' skill level? Where you observe players who you think are comparably skilled, and you see how they do. Ideally, you get a hold of a lot of data. If you have a lot of data on not just this individual player, but players of comparable skill levels, you'll start to see rough return on investments that people will achieve. And I'm going to show you those in just a minute. So you don't even have to get the data yourself. I'll just give it to you. Also, as the backer, you want to build in a margin of error. Let's say you think this backee has 50% return on investment. Maybe you actually have more like 35. You may say, well, isn't that unfair for the backee? Maybe, but you have to realize the backee is the one who needs the money, right? The backer is the one making the purchase here, and as the purchaser, you get to decide if the price is fair. And to be fair, as the seller, you get to decide if the price is fair, and if you don't meet at a point, that's okay. We do not have to make a deal. A lot of people think that if someone's selling action, they must buy it at that price. But no, you don't have to buy it at that price. I buy a lot of action among good poker players who I think are selling at reasonable markups. And every once in a while, I'll buy pieces of people at, let's say, the whole World Series. I'll buy all their action in the summer at, let's say, a small markup, 1.1. They have a good summer. Next year, they come back and they want to sell it at 1.4. You know what I say? See ya. Because it's not worth it. Also understand that most people are not as good as they think they are. Many poker players are egomaniacs. They play poker to stroke their ego. And the idea that maybe they're not worth what they actually think they are is crushing to them. But if anything, I have always learned make sure you assume you are way worse than you are. That way you don't spend all of your money, you don't play in games you can't beat, and you're continuously keeping a large bankroll, allowing yourself to, well, win long term. I want to make this clear, by the way. In the ideal world, you do not want to be backed. You want to keep all of your money. The only times where I think it makes logical sense to get backed is when the buy-ins become exponential, which really only happens in the very, very, very high-stakes games, right? And then also, if you're getting additional services from the backer, like a private coaching site, like at Pokar.com, right? People who are actually good winners go to Pokar, give up part of their profits in exchange for access to their immense private coaching site, private one-on-one coaching from the best players in the world. That may make sense because you're getting thousands and thousands of dollars in value every month just by being a backee. But ideally, you do not want to be getting backed because when you get backed, you're essentially saying, I'm willing to give away some of my profits in exchange for lower variance / being able to play with a smaller average buy-in. And again, that only really makes sense when you're jumping from like $5,000 games to $10,000 to $25,000 to $100,000. If you're playing $100 games and you want to play a $500 game, just be patient and realize you don't have to play a tournament just because it exists. Just because a game exists doesn't mean you must play it. Okay? All right, let's keep moving forward. As the field size increases, the number of players in a tournament increases, the potential return on investment generally increases as well for good players, but so does variance. The question is, do we care about variance? Well, as a backer, hopefully you've done a little bit of bankroll analysis, and you want to keep a very large bankroll. Whenever I'm buying pieces of people, very often it's somewhere between $100 and $1,000 per individual tournament. If I could play a $100 to $1,000 buy-in tournament over and over and over again, all day, every day, with a 10% return on investment, sign me up, right? We're just going to get rich long term. But there's going to be a lot of variance, especially for things like the World Series of Poker, where there'll be 1,000 people in the tournament or 5,000 people in the tournament. In games like this, you're going to have a ton of variance. And that's fine. Understand that should not really negatively impact your decision to buy or sell. It should really just impact your bankroll management. Also, the fact that there is a lot of variance, again, makes it very difficult for you, the backee, to know your actual return on investment unless you have a ton of data. For example, in a 5,000 person tournament, you may need 5,000 games played to have any idea of what your actual return on investment is. And realistically, probably more like 15 or 20,000 to be able to pinpoint it plus or minus like 5 or 10%. I don't know the exact math on this, but I do know you need a ton because how often do you win the 5,000 person tournament, right? It's just not that often. So, as the backee, you need to be realistic and estimate using your data and other people's data of players who are comparably skilled what your actual return on investment is if you want to be presenting a fair deal. So, let's go through rough return on investments of good players. These are the best players in the world. Okay? Best players in the world. It's not you, probably not even me, and not the majority of us. Again, these numbers are going to be rough. There are going to be exceptions. But in general, in relatively tough high-stakes tournaments, like, let's say, random $1,000 tournament on Tuesday, right? Not the absolute highest stakes, right? Random $1,000 tournament on Tuesday, doesn't have a whole lot of bad players. The best players in the field are going to have something like a 40% return on investment, which means they buy in for $1,000, they get $1,400 back on average. In similar turbo tournaments, they may have something like 20%. In soft large field online tournaments, like Sunday Million type tournaments, the best players may have something like 80% return on investment. And in soft live side events, like a random $2,000 buy-in tournament, like we won over there, we won one recently, you may have something like 60% return on investment. And in soft live main events, this is where it gets a little bit mushy because there's loads of variance in these and the fields vary substantially. But I think you can have something like 125%, maybe more, maybe less, but something like that. So you see, this is why a lot of people are trying to get in these big soft live main events because they satellite in a lot of players and because a lot of people take shots and that makes the games very soft. This is why World Series of Poker is generally very soft. Now, I would generally say World Series of Poker side events probably more fall into this 60% category, maybe more like 80%. But things like the World Series main event, I wouldn't be surprised if the best players have 300% ROI or something like that in that one very, very, very slow tournament. So this is the best players in the world, okay? What about the non-best winning players? Again, these are rough estimations. Obviously, there's a big, I can't come up with the word, a big spectrum of skill levels. But these are the players who are like pretty good. Higher stakes games, as you see, basically these ROIs just get cut in half, which means they're worth not nearly as much as the best players, right? So for tough online turbo tournaments, you see something like a 10% return on investment. Probably doesn't even make sense to be playing those if they require some of your table space you could be using to play slower tournaments, right? You'd much rather be playing, like if you want to make a lot of money online and you don't mind variance, play a lot of large soft field tournaments. You're just going to be printing money playing those. We went through the math in a little coffee a while back about how you can make something like $100,000 per year playing something like $50 average buy-in online. Just grinding it out, putting in volume, you will crush it. And then live poker is still, again, usually very, very soft. What about if you are a losing player? Well, your ROI will be negative. And don't forget, most players are losers. So many people do not like to accept that they may actually be a loser in the field, in the game that they are playing. And the interesting thing about this is that as you're moving up to higher and higher games and trying to sell action for higher games, your ROI in those games is going to be less than it would be in your normal game. Let's say you normally play $100 buy-in tournaments and you want to sell action to a $1,000 tournament at your local casino that happens once a month. Hate to break it to you, but if you're a 20 or 30 or 40% winner in the $100 game, you're probably going to be break even or maybe a loser in the $1,000 game. And there are many reasons for this. Usually the game's going to be tougher because a lot of the bad players aren't in the $1,000 game. You may be a little bit uncomfortable playing it. You may be out of your comfort zone. And this is going to result in you just not playing as well and not being in so many good spots. Turns out, you get to have a big ROI in the small stakes soft games because people are consistently punting off their stack and doing dumb things. When we review hand histories of players who play like $10 buy-in tournaments, all you got to do is sit there and play fundamentally sound poker and your opponents will just dump money to you over and over again. So realize, as you move up, which is usually when you need to sell action or when you want to sell action, your ROI is not going to be what it normally would be. Okay, let's take a look at a markup example here. If the backee has 20% return on investment, the backer makes the difference between 1.2 and whatever they buy at. Okay? So let's say if they buy at 1.1, they make 0.1 profit on 1.1 invested, right? They put in 1.1, they get back 1.2. So the profit is 0.1 divided by the amount invested, which equals a 9% profit. As you can see, if you can buy at low markups for good players, it's probably just going to work out. What if they buy at 1.4 though? This is what you'll often see on Stake Kings, YouStake, people who have good social media followings. They can sell whatever they want. Well, now you buy at 1.4 and they lose 0.2. So now it's 0.2 divided by 1.4 for a 14% loss. And an interesting thing about this is actually really good for the backee. Where is this loss going? This loss is going essentially to the backee to some extent. And you are basically subsidizing the backee to play in games. Because now imagine, let's just get out the calculator real quick. I didn't write this down. But let's say they sell 50% of the tournament at 1.4, okay? So 0.5 times 1.4 equals, this is 0.7. That means they're going to put in 30% of the money for 50% of the profit. 30% of the money for 50% of the profit. Think about how absurdly good that is for the backee, even if they're break even, right? They're going to get back 0.5, and they're only putting in 0.3, so they're going to make, did I do this wrong? Yeah, 0.3 divided by 0.5. Maybe I'm doing this wrong. They should make 40%. Is that what we're coming out to? They should make 40%. Whatever it is, I think they're going to make 40%. And the backee is making a lot of money, and the backer is taking a loss. So why is that thought to be okay? Well, the answer is because a lot of the time, the backers are unsophisticated. They've not sat down and done some thinking about these scenarios and some math in these scenarios. And it's very important to make sure that you are making good purchases. Again, we're coming from the point of view of we care about making money. 0.2 divided by 0.5 equals 40%. Sure. There we go. Maybe I have the math. Maybe they make 60%. I don't even know. They're making money. Again, this is what happens when you don't pre-make this stuff. So understand that as the backer, the price you pay is very, 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 very important. Okay? Very important. Also, shop around. There's a site called PokerShares, and other people will make these bets with you. They will often book action at a lower markup than the person selling it. For example, let's say Jonathan Little decided, you know what? I'm popular and I'm going to start fleecing my followers. I'm going to start selling at 1.8 for various tournaments. Okay? Fine. I sell out at 1.8. I sell my however much percent I want to sell. I get my money and I'm good to go. Well, it turns out if I'm going to play this tournament, especially if I'm offering these prices publicly, this site PokerShares will put up a line. They may say, well, we'll sell you Jonathan Little at 1.5. That means that if I win the tournament, they pay out the prize. If I lose the tournament, they keep your money. Basically the same thing as me selling you the action, right? And they may be selling it at a discount. Turns out during the World Series of Poker, they will go in and undercut a lot of people selling their action, especially the popular players, right? And, well, that means that as the backer, you actually have options. Now, interestingly enough, this site PokerShares exists to make money. So let's say I'm selling at 1.8, but they'll sell me at 1.5. The real number in their minds may only be something like 1.4 because they're making money on the deal, right? That means that I would be selling that action for 0.4 too high, 40% too much. And everyone who bought from me would be just throwing 40% into the garbage. Actually, not into the garbage. They're giving it to Jonathan Little. But I'd much rather you sign up to my training site than just straight give me money for no reason, / for a little bit of gamble. So, understand that you need to shop around, especially if you do want action in someone, but the action is very expensive. If it's a high markup, what is high? Anything more than like 1.25, I would tell you to shop around. You should probably look elsewhere, right? Or just not even make the purchase. Understand that when you buy from a site like PokerShares or from someone else, assuming they're trustworthy, that it's the same thing, except for you know you're going to get paid. I've had a few issues where I backed people and they won and they didn't want to pay me back. One time I backed someone at the World Series of Poker for a bunch of tournaments. I think I bought like $30,000 worth of his action, and he cashed for like $3,000 total. So he owed me $300, okay? He owed me $300 back. And I walked up to him like, hey, can I get the $300 back? And he said, screw you, Jonathan Little. I just had the worst summer of my life. I'm basically broke. I'm never giving you $300 because you're rich and I have no money. Well, that's not good. And I never got that $300, and that's not good, right? Sometimes you have a bit of a sweat if the person wins. I've actually helped out a few backers who trusted me more than their own backies. I would be deep in a tournament with their backy. Their backy would be at the final table with me. I get a phone call, hey, Jonathan, please collect this money from this person because we don't fully trust them to give it back. This $1 million they may potentially win, we do not trust them. But they trust me, who I'm not even like affiliated with them or anything, right? And happy to help out the backers, right? Happy to do the community service, but that's something you got to deal with, right? You may not actually collect one way or the other. Also, be wary of buying on sites like YouStake or Stake Kings because they charge additional rake. I don't know exactly the fees they charge, but it's something like 10%. Some of it's to the backer, some of it's to the backy, whatever. The backer is paying it out the door. And imagine that the break even becomes like 1.1 instead of 1.0, right? Now you just have to have additional 10, 11, 12% ROI on every purchase you make. And that's going to be very, very difficult, especially since a lot of people selling on there are kind of popular or are streamers or are known names. I hate to be a downer on those businesses, but like in reality, you're not going to make money if you're backing people there. You're going to have a very difficult time doing that long term. And you may say, but I've bought a few pieces there and I've won. Yeah, variance exists. Remember, every time you buy a piece, it's basically like you're playing a small buy-in poker tournament with a small edge or a small disadvantage. And obviously, you're going to have big swings. So just because things have happened in the past does not mean they're going to continue happening in the future. Nate says, want to give back and you're on Twitch. Subscribe using Amazon Prime. It's free. Yeah, it's completely free. If you have Amazon Prime, to subscribe to one person per month on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, click like, click subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Okay, next. Let's take a look. This is from Poker Shares. Remember how we discussed shopping around? This is a random, soft, very, very soft, highly marketed $500 buy-in tournament. And these players listed are all very good, strong, winning players. Okay? So let's take a look. Here we have, I don't know how to say this guy, Alemrix, one of the best players in the world. You can buy his action at 2.0 in this very soft online tournament. Okay? That means that Poker Shares, which is where I got these from, hope they don't mind if I promote them, they think that if you buy this player at 2.02, they are going to make money. I don't know how much of an edge Poker Shares wants to have, but let's presume that person's actually worth 1.8 or 1.85 or 1.9. I'm not sure. Understand when they're selling action in a giant, large event, if you win that tournament for $250K on your $500 buy-in, they're going to have to pay you out 500 times your money, right? So there's a load of variance. And I imagine because there's a load of variance, they probably want to build in a bigger edge. But as you see, these are the best players in the world. Let's go back to what I actually told you a while ago. Where is it? The best winning players. Soft, large field online tournaments, 80%. Turns out the company sitting here backing people, or selling shares of people, making money on every purchase, presumably, they are going to be making something. Well, they say it's basically what it is. Maybe the best players have 1.9. They have 90% ROI. Whatever. It's close enough, right? And again, all these players are very strong winning players, or they are very popular streamers. Like, for example, we have this Fenton Easy Hand with Aces. You see 1.58. They don't think he's a super crusher, but he's going to be streaming. He's going to be popular. People are going to buy his action, and you can buy his action cheaper than other people because he has a lower advantage. And as you see, there's going to be a bit of a spread here. Like, they have this guy, 1.79. They have a 1.64, right? They have Ben CB, very good player, 2.08, right? His is probably inflated. So funny enough, whenever they're a market maker, they're going to inflate the edges of people who are going to be more popular. This guy streams or whatnot. And they're going to inflate his ROI a little bit. Probably really has something like 90% ROI. But let's say, hypothetically, Ben CB came to you and said, I'm a crusher. Look at my lifetime results. I have 250% ROI in these tournaments. So you can buy at 2.0. Or let's say 2. You can buy at 2.25. You'll make the 25% difference. Why would you ever pay that 2.25 when you could come here and pay 2.08? It doesn't make sense, right? Like, let's say Fenton here decided to say, all right, I'll sell it at 2.0 to his followers. Again, I'm not saying these people do this at all. I'm just using these as examples because I know they have followers, right? Say they said, I'll sell it to you at 2.0, or in Fenton's case, 1.75 or 1.6 even. Why would you ever buy it from him when you could come to this site and buy it for 1.58? You just get a discount. Would you rather have a discount or not a discount? Also, something you'll take note here, additional buy-in entries are sold at a lower rate. And that's because as you buy in later, you have less time to extract value from the weak players. Okay? So this was a very, very random promoted soft tournament. Okay? Let's look now at a $10,000 high roller that's going to have a relatively small field. Again, this is just the first people on the list. Take a look at this. This is a very, very tough tournament. These are the toughest tournaments on the internet and the world. And as you see, these are actually a list of many of the absolute best players in the world. And look at their markups. 1.08, 1.1, 1.06, 1.07. And remember, Poker Shares is making money on this. So they think their actual edge is less than what is listed here. They're telling you, they're willing to bet on it with their hard-earned money that, let's take someone like Fedor, one of the best players in the world, is going to win less than 6% return on investment in this tournament. Think about that, right? They are saying that all these world-class players, David Peters, one of my good friends, wins at less than 12%, right? We have Christoph Vogel saying, one of the absolute best, he's going to win at less than 1.13%. Notice he's the highest guy on the list. They think no one in this field is going to have more than 13-ish% ROI. Why is people even playing these games would be a good question, right? In reality, these players probably have something like, I don't know, well, let's take Fedor, for example. If it's 1.06, again, they're making money. They think he's probably break even or plus 1% or 2%. Again, poker shares could be wrong, but remember, they're making these bets all day, every day, and I bet they have better data than almost anyone in the whole world. So make sure that you actually understand what is reasonable. So many people think that people have gigantic edges in these things, and they just don't. When you're looking at all these super high roller tournaments, they're all trading money back and forth, making some small percent ROI. All right, let's talk about swaps real quick. When you swap action with someone, you're essentially trading some percentage of them for some percentage of you. So let's say at the start of a tournament, you come to Jonathan Little. I'm thought to, let's say I have a big edge. Let's say I have 100% ROI in this soft live tournament, and you're a random recreational player. In reality, if we only care about making money, I should not swap 1% of me for 1% of them, right? Because, well, my 1% is worth twice as much as their 1%. So as an example of this, let's say if their ROI is 20%, but your ROI is 60%, they should swap 1.33% for 1% of you, which is 1.6 divided by 1.2. That's my 1.6 divided by their 1.2, which is 1.33, right? That said, I don't think you need to be, first off, you don't have to accept any swap that you don't want to take, obviously. You don't have to make any deal you don't want to take. Tiny swaps are a great way to have more fun and create and cultivate friendships at a relatively low cost. Like let's say it's a $10,000 tournament and I make a swap where this is the actual case. I'm giving up a difference between 1 and 1.33, so I'm giving up 0.33% in terms of dollars. If it's a $10,000 tournament, I'm giving up $33 to perhaps cultivate a good friendship. There are a few, players who are worse than me who I will swap with no problem for like 1% across the board. I don't care. And if you do that with 5 or 10 people, it costs you in a $10,000 tournament, $300? You get to make good friends. You get to have fun. You get to enjoy each other's company, each other's gamble, and it's a fine thing to do. That said, look, swaps reduce variance in theory, but I would really generally tell you try to keep all of your own action. Again, unless you're swapping very comparably, it's usually not quite so fair. So, look, end of the day, my advice, be very selective when it comes to buying action. You do not have to buy action just because it exists. Just because you bought someone's action in the past. If you get new information that makes it no longer a good buy, you don't have to buy it. Let's say, for example, you used to buy them at 1.1 and they decide that because they won a tournament, they're going to raise it to 1.3. And you don't like 1.3. You don't have to buy. A lot of these people, in my experience, get incredibly offended. They get offended whenever you say, sorry, I'm not buying your action anymore. Like, why wouldn't you buy my action? I won you money. Well, it's because they're no longer selling you something that is going to be profitable for you. Or you think it's close, right? Whenever I'm a backer, I want to build in some edge. Also, get to know the backie's skill level and trustworthiness. There are a lot of good players out there. Well, not a lot. There are some good players out there who are absolute scam artists. Or they're just not trustworthy with money. There's a well-known story of a guy. People backed him to play $1 million buy-in tournament. And they gave him the $1 million at Aria. Before he got out of Aria, he lost it at the Baccarat pit. And didn't get to play the tournaments. That's obviously a big problem. You do not want to be backing people who cannot make it out of Aria to the Rio to play the $1 million buy-in tournament without losing it at the Baccarat pit or even putting it at risk in anything other than exactly that poker tournament. Those people don't need to get backing. Hate to break it to you. Also, you need to be aware of the backie's skill level. You can do that by talking with them, by studying with them, by looking at past results, etc. Also, follow them on Twitter. See what they do with their downtime. This is very important. If you look at Twitter and during poker tournaments, they're out partying. You can even look at past results, right? If say you're going to back people for the World Series, but last month at the Hard Rock in Florida, they were out partying every night during the main event while they were still in the tournament. Probably not such a great person to be backing because they may not be playing so great, right? So definitely be aware of that. Also, if you're going to be buying big pieces, which is what I very often do, let's say they do want 1.3 and they're trying to sell 50% of their action. Instead of them having to sell to 10 different people or 100 different people, I'll just buy all 50% of it and then get it at a lower price, like 1.2 or something like that. So that is definitely something that I would recommend you do if you want to be buying big pieces of action. Also, if you're the backer or the backee, either, be easy to work with. You need to be easy to work with. Whenever you need to send the money quickly. Don't be a pain, right? As the backee, you win the tournament, have good communications with the backers. Sometimes I sell action. When I go and play $10,000 buy-in tournaments, $25,000 buy-in tournaments, I'll sell action in those. And every single time, before I get on the airplane to come home, I've already written a letter to the backers listing how it's going and asking them how they would like the money back, right? Because that makes me easy to work with. That makes me trustworthy. A lot of backees, they will make a deep run, win a tournament, then just be completely out of communications for like 3 or 4 days. One time I backed someone in the World Series main event who took like 12th place, and they owed me something like $200,000. And they just didn't answer their phone for 3 days. It's like, why would you possibly do that? Like, oh, sorry, I was just getting off the grid. Like, yeah, don't get off the grid with my $200,000, please. And that's just bad business. And you know what? Even if that person's good, they're not getting backed again by me. Because I don't want to deal with nonsense. I don't want to deal with any sort of sweat. Who knows what they were doing during that time period? Maybe they decided to parlay it on the sports bet, on some sports book, and bet. If they lost, they wouldn't pay me. And if they won, well, now they're rich because they have an extra $200K to gamble with. Who knows what they were doing? I don't know what they're doing, but it keeps things difficult and hidden and clouded. And you definitely do not want to deal with that. You don't need to deal with nonsense. On both sides of the equation, be easy to work with. And also run hot. When I say run hot, I don't mean clearly you're not going to have any way of knowing if you're going to be lucky or not, but you need to make sure you're putting in volume realistically. Volume is very important. If you buy one piece of somebody, realize it's like playing one-handed blackjack. Obviously, anything can happen in one-handed blackjack or one spin of the roulette wheel. But if you spin it 1,000 times or 5,000 times or 10,000 times, volume cures variance. We say it all the time. And in backing, volume cures variance as well. Realize, though, that unlike regular poker tournaments, you're going to have a smaller edge. So you want to make sure you're keeping a much bigger bankroll for your backing than you do for regular poker. And that's going to lead to you making generally much smaller bets. I see all of you typed a million things. I haven't really been paying attention. You won the $11 3K last night. Congrats. Good job. Good work. Can you define high markup? Again, depends on the situation, right? I mean, going back over here, I showed you. High markup. I mean, look, I think this is high markup. I'm not paying 2.0 for any one of these tournaments. Basically, if you look at the list of what PokerShares pays, or what you can buy people on PokerShares, you should never pay more than that for anyone, right? Like if you take a random person, Jonathan Little, for example, and you see the best players in the world being able to be bought at 2.0, roughly, you should literally never pay 2.0 for me in this tournament. That would be really, really dumb. Because I'm not the absolute best poker player in the world. And assuming, again, you care only about making money, it would be ridiculous for me to sell it. Now, to be fair, I have no problem with people selling anything they want to sell at any price they want to sell it at. And, well, maybe not anything. Probably shouldn't be able to sell murdering of people and whatnot. Anyway, let's not get off topic. You should be able to sell whatever percentage of action you want to sell at whatever price you want. And people don't have to buy it. I do not think it is necessarily out of line to say, all right, I'm going to play the World Series main event. You can buy my action at 3.0 if you want. I don't really want to sell it, but hey, you want to pay for it, I will. But, you know what I would tell you? I would tell you to go to another site like PokerShares and buy it for 1.8 or whatever they would give it to you for. What about selling to friends with no markup? Well, no markup is great. That's how you, as a backer, make money. Where can you get backing as a U.S. player? Again, why would you need to get backing? You have over 2 million in online cashes. Why would you want to get backing if you have 2 million in online cashes? Ideally, you've saved up at least a few hundred K. If you saved up at least a few hundred K, then why do you want backing? Just keep play within your bankroll and don't worry about it. Let's see how to beat loose games. We discuss this all the time. We're not going to discuss that here. Why is Daniel Negreanu selling his action for, or what is he selling his action for? I don't know what Daniel Negreanu does. I know during the World Series last time he sold it to even money. Why? As a public service to give his fans a sweat. I think that kind of thing is fantastic. I was actually planning on doing that this year at the World Series of Poker. I was going to sell something like 10% of my action at no markup. But we didn't have that happen. Do you like to play the World Series of Poker? It's fine. What was my ROI when I was playing Sit and Goes back in the day? Started off at 10% and decreased down to about 0% as time progressed because the games got unbeatable, and you get to today, nobody wins. If you look at all of the winners in sit and goes, they all get paid rake back. None of them actually win at the game. You're that only 5% of poker players actually win money long term. I'm not exactly sure on these numbers, but I do know if you look at like Supernova Elite type players, about 5% of those profited long term, and those were the best players in the world. So figure that out. Mr. James is a crusher indeed. Are these World Series bracelets going to be worth anything if you win them online? It's going to sound bad. I don't think World Series bracelets worth much of anything anymore. Ever since they started having 70, 80 tournaments per year, I think in general, like, who cares? I mean, back in the day, whenever you would get on ESPN and you would win loads and loads of money and you'd get lots of publicity, yeah, very easily could be worth something back then. Today, like, I have 0 bracelets. I don't care if I ever get a bracelet. It just doesn't make a difference to me. Sure, like, it'd be nice to win a tournament, but, like, if I could win a bracelet and 100K or just 200K and no bracelet, give me no bracelet all day. And I can even market it, right? So I can even make use of the fact that I can get a bracelet because I have followers. It would give me more credibility or whatever. But I don't think a bracelet's worth a ton. A lot of people like try to look at things and say, oh, is it less credible because it's online? I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about any of that. I don't really care about, it's going to sound bad, I don't really care about nonsense. And things like how many tournaments you have won is kind of nonsense because it's a volume game at the end of the day. All you're saying is, I put in a lot of volume with a positive ROI, I won some tournaments. Congrats. You're bringing attention to these people who are using their fans and taking advantage of them. You're seeing a trend with streamers who are not proven world-class players, but they stream and they see they can make money from things versus winning at poker. Look, again, I have no problem selling action at 3.0 if people want to buy it, and in theory, if you don't really want to sell it. But yeah, I think it's interesting that whenever you do propose a deal like that to someone, you're out there actually marketing it. You're kind of saying, if you're dumb enough to buy this, I'll take advantage of you. But is that really what you want from your fans or of your fans? Like, I don't want dumb fans. I want fans who I'm making smarter, making better, who would never buy me at 3.0 because why would they possibly want to do that? I mean, I'm not a charity here. We're trying to add value, not take value. How many buy-ins do you need for a game? Go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll. Oh yeah, we're having a sale right now. Check out pokercoaching.com/July4. You don't like the idea of someone else making decisions with your money, and you didn't like making decisions with somebody else's money. Decided it's not for you. Well, you got to understand, people make decisions with your money all the time. If you're an American and you pay taxes, the government, a bunch of random people, make decisions with your money all day, every day. So you kind of got to get over that thought process. Thoughts on bullies getting upset about people's markup? Listen, if you post something for sale and someone thinks it's not a value, they're allowed to say it's not a value. If I become a shoemaker and I decide to sell shoes for $800 and someone in the know knows that it cost me $1.50 to make those shoes, and they know that they'll break after a week because they're not good quality, should they be allowed to say something? Obviously, yes. And I should take the flack for making overpriced, crappy shoes, right? If you're selling an overpriced, crappy asset in a poker tournament and you're publicly doing it, and people in the know it's a crappy asset, it's not a good buy, they're allowed to say that. Let's see. Have I ever had any YouTube videos removed? Very few, and they got put back up immediately because I'm not promoting unlicensed, unregulated, shady poker sites that are probably going to scam you at some point down the road. Turns out the people who promote the unlicensed, unregulated, shady, scammy poker sites, they get their videos removed. Maybe not even that bad of a play by YouTube in reality. Now, obviously, some people are just promoting licensed, regulated poker sites. I think there should be a distinction drawn there. YouTube as a giant company, if they've decided you cannot promote poker sites very blatantly, and you especially cannot promote unlicensed, unregulated ones that are operating illegally, yeah, don't get anywhere near that. That seems like the common sense. What's the biggest sweat I've ever had as a backer? Oh yeah, World Series main event's always the biggest sweat you have as a backer, pretty much. If you have 10% of someone and they can win $10 million, that's usually about as big as it's going to get. Are the videos on poker coaching giving you correct frequencies? Yes, of course. All the homework does that. The people who sell at higher prices view their fans as customers. Yeah, they do. To be fair, perhaps I view you as customers for my poker training site. I want to sell you poker education to make you get better at poker and let you win more money from poker, which is why that's what I sell to all of you. I don't sell a shady poker site that I know, because of, well, history and how they're currently run, that they're going to eventually go broke and run off with your money. That's not what we're selling here. Everyone's selling something. You think we're all out here producing content all day, every day? For nothing? No, no, no. We are trying to do something, trying to sell something, trying to profit in some way. That said, I love what I do. It makes it a whole lot easier to show up and do it all day, every day. A well-known Twitch streamer committed suicide yesterday, I believe. Not in poker, I think in various other games. Old school guy. From things like depression. I don't know it. Again, I'm not going to get on that topic whatsoever. But it's hard to do this kind of thing, especially if you are not super in love with it. And especially if you don't have very thick skin, or at least the ability to not care about the opinions of some people who clearly don't know what they're talking about. And it's hard to show up every day and be on. Yet, I do my best, and a lot of streamers do it. It's harder than you would think. Okay, anyway. Your site is probably the best out there anyway. Well, that's the goal. I have to go take James scootering now. Hope you all have a great day. Aren't you promoting a site just by playing on it? Funny enough, let me show you something I had at the bottom of my stream the other day. You see this? I do not represent, vouch for, or recommend you play on any unlicensed, unregulated poker site. Be smart. I think putting a disclaimer there is relatively important, because I want to make sure you know that when you put your money on these sites, they will indeed take your last cash out and whatever you have in your account at some point in the future. You don't know when the future is, but at some point in the future. Oh, goodness. How do we feel about Jeff Boyski? Well, he's a shill, right? Shills are going to shill. If you don't have any money and you are willing to do things for $100 or $200 or $1,000, that's going to significantly diminish your brand and respectability and credibility, I feel bad for you. That's what it amounts to. I realize that everyone is not in the situation Jonathan Lill is in, where, like, look, I don't really have financial problems. We're doing great in life. And that's because, well, we've done the right thing for a long period of time. I didn't always do the right thing. And turns out things were way worse and you don't do the right things. And if you can't pay your bills and you don't really have a whole lot going for you, maybe the answer is you just have to do shady stuff to get by. And I think it's very unfortunate for anyone who's in that situation. That said, you can get out of that situation by doing good things and adding value, as opposed to trying to tear things down and harm your followers. Turns out the right thing wins at the end of the day. Is there a different link to the 4th of July sale? Pokercoaching.com/July4, I think. Oops, there's my email. Oh, wait, you can't see it anyway. Pokercoaching/July4. Please work. Please don't have a capitalization problem. Please work. Please work. Is it working? All right, yes, it is working. Pokercoaching.com/July4. What does a shill mean? A shill is someone who gets paid to promote something, quite often something they know is definitively bad for their following. Like, for example, if I was shilling for a cocaine dealer and they paid me $1,000 a month to do it, well, that would not be good and ethical and wise, right? Turns out that's what a lot of shills are doing for unlicensed, unregulated poker sites. I mean, I posted this on Twitter. I didn't know. I mean, someone asked, and I figure I might as well answer them. I posted something effective. I've been offered over $100K a year to promote these sites in affiliate deals, and some of these people know what my following is, especially through email, which is bigger than all my social media following. And they said I can make probably about $25,000 a month shilling for an unlicensed, unregulated site. And their logic was, your fans are going to put in $20 or $100 each, and if we go down, it's okay. They lose $100, they'll get over it, and you'll make $250K a year or something. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to screw all of you at some point in time in the future. And even for the potential to screw you some point in the future, that's not what we're trying to do here. There's a sea of shills. Unfortunately, there is. Let's get off this topic. Understand that if you're following people who are promoting unlicensed, unregulated, shady, illegal things, they're not looking out for you, they're looking out for them. And hopefully you're smart enough to trust people and follow people who are obviously looking out for you. I'm not paid and represent any poker site. I do think there are some good ones. I think there are some bad ones. And we mentioned this before. I would happily work with Party Poker 888 and maybe with Poker Stars if they get their act together. But I have no problem with these sites. I think they're good legitimate poker sites. And a lot of the other companies are not so good, especially the ones that are operating illegally. And I think if you're promoting those, you are making a short-term decision that will probably fail for you long-term. What's more profitable, online cash games or online tournaments? Probably tournaments for sure, which has a tougher field. Cash games for sure. All right, I have to go take James scootering. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your holiday. Check out pokercoaching.com/July4 if you want a big discount on poker coaching. Goodbye. Have fun. Enjoy yourselves. And I will see you bright and early Sunday. Probably 2 p.m. start time. We'll be streaming poker all day. It's going to be a lot of fun. Last week we got crushed. 2 weeks before that we won some money. 2 weeks before that we won some money. 2 weeks before that I think we broke even. We'll see how it goes. Follow me on Twitter @JonathanLittle. Click like, click subscribe.